Hi, everyone. Give me a minute just to set some things up. Good to be here. Hi, making money, moving money. Good morning to you. Happy Christmas Eve if you celebrate. Let me just see if I can get all the other streams set up because there's always a few problems. Let me just check that's working. Oh, yeah, there we go. That's fine. All right, so I think we're all good to go. Let me just double check that's working. Just give me a minute, please. Don't seem to be able to. There we go. Okay. Just checking that the group has got everything streaming nicely for them. Let's just get back to it. Right. Okay. So I guess I presume we're not going to have much participation today because everyone who celebrates Christmas and is going to be very busy with family, and that's perfectly fine. But just want to make sure that the community at ArcisFX knows that they are served. So we're just going to go through a few things today. Obviously, we're going to be crypto focused, but I'm here to answer any of your questions if you have any. So please feel free to shoot them. And Lola, I know you're there. I've given you the link under the table, right? So if you want to comment, please, please feel free. Because it'll be if you've got any questions about crypto, let me know. So Lola, I know you're watching, so feel free to just chime in. You're not going to get into trouble. It's fine. It's Christmas Eve. Everything's fine. Right. So, okay, let's have a quick summary of what the markets are doing. Obviously, it's a shortened session today. So, obviously, we've got pretty thin volume. And as far as I can tell, I don't really want to step on James's shoes, but it looks like we've got the S&P and the NASDAQ are nearing record highs still. And the tech and AI stocks are continue to pretty much drive the gains. I think gold is doing pretty well at the moment. Hitting so everything's pretty good, I think, relatively with the stocks at the moment. I think obviously everything's pretty flat, and as we said, low volume and so forth, but overall markets seem to be quite steady. Gold I think is elevated, natural gas is doing all right, although slightly softer, and trading activity is as we would expect at this time. But crypto not doing as well, unfortunately. But let's just double check that these streams are working okay. So yeah, it's quite an interesting time. Let's just double check. Here we go. Go to the homepage. Just bear with me. It's my iPad broke last night, so I'm a bit stuck in terms of what I'm doing. So yeah. So obviously, this time of year, not all moves necessarily get followed through. We typically have a lot of low volume. So for example, if you see a breakout and say you're trading a particular asset, a stock or whatever, right, Tesla or whatever, and you see a particular move. You're not going to have much volume with it, of course, obviously, with limited sessions as well. But it's difficult to ascertain that whether if you have like a breakout of some kind, during the Christmas holiday period, that you're going to get necessarily follow through in January. So it's always a very interesting time to trade. But there is money to be made potentially. The Christmas rally is a real thing, but I'm not sure we're going to get with crypto. So let's jump in and see how we're getting on with crypto at the moment. And of course, if anyone is around and wants to ask me any questions, I'm happy to take a look at whatever assets you choose. So firstly, let's just jump in with Bitcoin and have a quick look. So in Bitcoin update this week, if you haven't already seen it, please check it out. We're talking about these time-based fibs, and these time-based fibs are essentially highlight potential pivot points for the price action. As you can see here, we had a markup, and then at this pivot point here, this 100% fib, time-based fib, we had the markdown began, and then again we had at the second point, which was around this first week of July, we then had a breakout of key resistance at that pivot point, and now we're at a new pivot point, which was essentially yesterday, I think, but instead of being on the back of a bull flag, we're on the back of a bear flag. So we have a pretty bearish bias for Bitcoin at the moment. And because we've been essentially in a bit of a consolidation for the last month or so, we really don't expect to enter another consolidation period, right? So we're probably either going to break higher here and come up to retest 108 over the next few days and weeks, or we're going to start to head down towards 67K. So not looking pretty good for Bitcoin at the moment at all. So that's kind of the way. So there is a bit of a divergence between the markets, which James is covering at the moment, and crypto, which is quite unfortunate. But that's the way it is. It's risk assets, of course. People are less likely to be messing around with them, especially when there's a lot of bearish fervor. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens in January, which is typically a relatively slow month. But it's going to be interesting to see on the back of a very couple of bearish bearish months from Bitcoin. But let's just have a quick look at the price action currently. So this is Bitcoin 4-hour chart, and the price action is currently stuck underneath in this very bearish pocket. And there's an advantage to being here, because the price action bulls can very easily just break above it here and take out the 3-day, 200 MA, the 4-hour, 200 MA, and 89K. But we did attempt to do that if we zoom in, and we couldn't really hold it, and we've come back down again. So it's all looking a little bit bearish at the moment, but nonetheless, and let's just have a look at the macro view. So that's another fib chart, and here's kind of this is another kind of version of it, and you can see essentially this is where a lot of the buyers are situated, approaching 82, 83K. So we probably expect, unless we see something different, a retrace back down to this area over the next few days, and then potentially maybe have another crack at support. That's the general idea, but it doesn't mean we can't break above from here. But are we? Because ultimately we're in no man's land. You can see we're right in the middle at the moment, and really we need to either get up here to be rejected by sellers, or to push us down here, or we need to be down here to push it back up there. So it's a little bit odd at the moment what's happening currently. And let us know. I mean, how do you, if there's anyone watching, just how do you, if there's anyone watching, if there's anyone not wrapping presents right now, right, or those of you who don't pay attention to Christmas. I don't celebrate Christmas as an example, so I'm happy to work. But tell us how you trade these particular these low volume kind of spaces around these holiday seasons, because they can be quite challenging. But like with anything in trading, it's always about adapting to the trading conditions. You need to be able to trade a bear market, you need to be able to trade a bull market, you need to be able to trade uncertainty, you need to be able to trade just periods of consolidation and distribution, and you need to be able to highlight all of those points, and you need to be able to trade them effectively. And the same goes for when we've got just the price action just sitting there as well. What do you do? What's your trading strategy? How do you make money when the market is like this? Now, of course, you're not going to be entering like longer term positions potentially without clarification, but you can obviously trade a range, shorter term plays, scalp trades, right? That's how you switch. And then obviously when in the crypto space, when things go really bullish, right, then you don't do so much scalping, you don't do much day trades, you don't do much leverage trades, you just enter some midterm holds, some mid caps or high caps, and you just let them go. So it's about being able to trade appropriately based on the market conditions. So if any of you have any stories about how you cope with the limited trading hours, of course, for traditional markets over this period, but also how do you trade with lower volume in terms of signaling and so forth, it'd be quite interesting to let me know if you're around. So yeah. So let's have a look very coolly and relaxedly at some setups. Now, if you're not initiated with crypto, this is a good opportunity to see what it's all about. We've got some really great crypto coverage on the channel, and we've got a lot more planned. Now, the issue is when we get the truth of the matter is that when crypto, as a trading tutor for crypto, I will get a load of students coming in, getting in touch with me when there is when the market is really bullish and all the media is going, Bitcoin's going to the moon. So I get tons of students, well, not tons, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but an uptick in students looking for appreciation and understanding of how they can benefit from all of this bullish fervor they're seeing in the news. So, but then when the market is down, that dries up. And I suppose it's the same for YouTube. I suppose it's the same for, because we're obviously trying to push our crypto content and we're trying to train the algorithm to recognize that I'm not James. I'm looking at altcoins and Bitcoins, and it's a full-time job. And like right now at the moment, there is people have different viewing habits and so forth. So it changes like how the YouTube works. And the same with trading as well. But here's the thing. Now, we have introduced and started to introduce some really some good coverage for crypto, and more is around the corner in our private trading group, which of course I'm speaking to most of you people now, you good people now, and thanks for welcoming me into the community. But here's the thing, right? The future of trading is on the blockchain, right? Now that is not here yet. It is here, but it's not mainstream yet. And understanding the tech, understanding the OG generic assets, traditional assets, which have been on in the crypto space, like DOT, which we're looking at, right? Everything from Solana to Dogecoin, right? And understanding how it all works, and then looking at it through the context of more traditional stocks coming into the space, right? you don't want to be waiting until this is the way the market is. You will need to be able to learn prior to it. So when I was saying about the point my students get in touch with me, when the market is bullish, it's the wrong time. Because you can't learn to trade and then make money at the same time, right? Because what I'm trying to say is that when the market is bullish, you need to have already learned to trade, or at least the basics, to then benefit from that, right? So when the market is green, you're ready. But what happens is I will support all my students and get them up to speed about the market over a series of weeks with a combination of my master classes and one-to-one tuition, all that kind of stuff. Everything from teaching them how to do an exchange. But then by the time they've learned how to start trading, that bull phase is over. And they're like, and then they're just like, okay, well, what do I do now? When really they need to be getting in touch when the market is down and everything is apocalyptic, right? Or challenging, shall we say, to trade. And then once they get through that, right, and they've cut their teeth in very challenging seas, shall we say, when the smoother currents, the calmer currents and the smoother waters arrive, then it's very easy for them to trade, and then they make some real money. So everyone does things back to front. So if we are entering a phase of crypto being more bearish than bullish, entering a bear market, this is an excellent opportunity for everybody to learn and understand. So when the next bullish fervor appears, whether that's February, July, or December next year, right, then they're ready. You're all ready. And likewise, in the big picture, if you are a nat gas trader, or you're a traditional stock trader and you're not used to, say, crypto exchanges, you're not used to how to trade the assets because they move very differently, and the way the money flow works is very different, and Bitcoin is king, it's a bit of a monarchy setup, then when is the best time to trade? When is the best time to learn to trade? The best time to learn to trade is when the market's down, right? Or when the market is not in the headlines, right? For good reasons, right? When the risk reward, when the fear and greed index is fearful, that's when you want to learn. So when we do start getting bullish further, and when, say, in the long term, the blockchain is where everyone's essentially making their trades, whether it's Tesla, nat gas, silver, cotton, or whatever it is, right? I'm not sure cotton will make it to the blockchain, but let's hope. Good old cotton, come on, you can do it. Then this is essentially what we're trying to achieve with the group. So we're trying to expose people to crypto in the group to get them ready for the future of trading, the future of assets. And then hopefully what will happen over time, the markets which James covers and the markets which I cover will start to come together like this. And then the styles and the strategies we have to use for crypto, and then the styles and the amazing strategies which James employs and teaches, will all come together into a wonderful little community where we can all benefit from all of the markets, right? At the same time, I'll be starting to trade other assets when they appear on the blockchain, etc., and it's more convenient. I'm not a big fan of traditional old school brokers myself. I don't like handling all the fees and all that kind of stuff. So there's a big future around the corner here at Arcis, and this is what we're trying to do. So if you are a member on YouTube, thanks for joining us, or thanks for watching maybe on Boxing Day or between now and the new year, or if you're in the private group. If you're not paying attention to the coverage we're providing with crypto, I really strongly recommend that you just keep one eye on it, right? Because there's always going to be something which takes your fancy, and you might think, "Ooh, I like this." And let me give you an example. So we'll come back to DOT in a second, but let me show you this. One of the few cryptos which has shown a lot of resilience is Zcash, ZEC, which is this chart here, which is ZEC 4 hour. Now, you might be a traditional stock trader, and you might look at ZEC and think, oh, I'm not interested. I don't know what it is. I don't know what Zcash is. I'm not interested, right? But then you look at these gains, okay? You look at these gains which have been put in, and this was just September this year, just a few months ago, 1,000%. Now, these gains were put in by Render, FET, many of the cryptocurrencies back at the start of 2024 when the bull run kicked off. And even though those cryptos are now suffering, ZEC is having its time in the sun, but 1,000% gains, right? And even though you're not going to catch the top, you're not going to catch the bottom. So let's trim that expectations a little bit. This is the potential. This is the potential. Now, you can look at that as a traditional market, through the lens of a traditional market, and think, right, okay, so that's otherworldly type gains, I need to have a piece of that, right? But the reality is that it's not so much taking 10, 20K, which you might put in a gold position, right? And getting your pretty decent, but relatively modest, more traditional returns compared to the crypto space. It's not about that. It's about the fact that you could do that with ZEC. And, I have done that, high value positions with like FET and so forth back, last year and so forth, and make a lot of money off it, right? But if you're not 100% down within the crypto space, you don't have to add big positions. You can add smaller positions and just benefit from the growth, the fast growth which crypto can offer, turning smaller amounts into bigger gains, which are reflective of the sort of trading with higher level capital with smaller gains in the more traditional market. So you don't have to trade with the same amount. You can adapt, and you can look at the crypto space as what it is, a risk asset, and you can look to get into it with smaller amounts of capital as you get to know the space, knowing that if you choose the right token and you employ the right strategy, that you can receive really decent substantial gains on very small amounts, and that's how you offset the risk. So if you usually trade with 10K, right, that's kind of your, say your trading pot is 50K, right, and you're typically trading with positions, maybe up to 5K, right, or so, whatever, right? It depends on, whatever. If you're more traditional and you're kind of 2% trading of your whole entire portfolio, or a little bit more cowboyish like me, right? You don't trade with 10K with crypto, you trade with 1K, right? Because you get more gains, right? But there's more risk, so you adjust your position. So you can still make money in a very simple way, like you usually do in the traditional stock space, except you're trading with less because of the additional risk, but also you're trading with less because you don't need to trade with more because of the additional gains. So the crypto space is a fascinating arena for traditional traders to pop in on and join and start exploring. And we encourage any members, if you're not in our private group, to consider upgrading to your private group membership, and also members in the private group who are yet to be co-opted by me into crypto, to keep paying attention, because there are some tremendous opportunities, and ZEC is still one of them by the looks of it. So if you are looking for something to trade over the next few weeks when there's low volume, ZEC might be in. We're going to have Altcoin Gems on Friday as well, so we'll probably look at this in more detail then, but let's have a quick look. So ZEC compared to like DOT, which is almost completely inverted, right? So if I just invert DOT, where's the invert button? There we go. That's essentially ZEC right now, kind of, right? So this is the situation. So ZEC is a bit of an anomaly at the moment, right? But it shows that it's a good opportunity because it's depegged essentially from the rest of the market. So here we go. So we've had a markdown, right? This is essentially where Bitcoin was starting to find its feet around 81, 82K. Got a double bottom on the RSI with a bit of divergence, because you can see this is an uptrend and this is flat. And we also now have an ascending triangle, which is a bullish pattern, right? Now, this is the 200 MA on the 4 hour, the first 200 MA, which has got a significant sort of resistance or function as a support and resistance line. And there's two plays here. Now, the market is bearish, right? Bitcoin is still below resistance in no man's land. You don't want to be front running positions, right? So this would be this is typically a nice little pocket to enter on, but it's no bueno, right? Because it's just, Bitcoin needs to have a better posture, right? Just principally speaking for crypto. So it doesn't. So what do you do? Okay, so you're a little bit more less risk averse than I am, but you still need bullish confirmation. So you wait for a break in the pattern above the 200 MA, and then you come back down like this, right? And then there's your first entrance. You've had bullish confirmation. You've managed to get above the 200 MA for the first time since the end of November, right? And we know what happens when we get above it, right? And then you're still within the pattern, you're front running it, and then you wait for a break, and then you ride it up from there. So that's the first play with ZEC, right? Pretty solid. We've got nice signals across the board, right? But we need to get above the 200 MA. Or, like me, you'll be waiting for the ascending triangle pattern to be confirmed, and then you'll wait for not just a move above the 4 hour 200 MA, but also a move above the ascending triangle. And then I'll look to enter on the flip side, potentially, or maybe just again, once we've had a break, I'll wait to come back in the pattern. So I'll wait for a break like that, and then I'll probably look to come in on maybe in the bottom end of the pattern, but I'll probably scale in because I'll take a position here, and then it looks like we might be able to, at the very least, trade this range. And that range, for clarity, is 37%. 2x, 3x leverage. There's a 100% odd trade, right? There you go. That's crypto. That's the fun. That's the love, right? And we're getting all the right signals. We know ZEC has decoupled a little bit and is bullish in the face of all the other crypto assets being relatively bearish. So there's a security there, right? Because it's kind of operating on its own. And this is quite the interesting thing about the space and what it will be like going forward. We talked about Bitcoin being king, and is that going to last forever? Well, no, nothing lasts forever. The only consistent thing we have is change. Now, I don't think Bitcoin's going away, of course not, but it may, as we've talked about, elevate to being an elder statesman. And assets like ZEC, XRP, Solana, for its role with blockchain-based stock assets, and that might be an Ethereum because of its use for the blockchain and the technology surrounding that and all it facilitates. They might be the thing. And what we may then see is, instead of waiting for Bitcoin to give the altcoins permission to go to the moon, what we might see is we start seeing a decoupling like ZEC has done, right? Which is not uncommon in a bull run, but Zcash is a little bit, because typically what you'll have is you'll have like the top assets, which people are paying attention to, like at the back end of 2020, the back end of 2023, the beginning of 2024 is all about AI, right? So that was render, fetch AI, and all that kind of stuff. And they were all going to the moon, but they were putting 1,000% gains in when others were putting 500% in, or others were putting 100% in. So the whole market was going with them, and of course they're outperforming it. But the difference between ZEC now and those assets is the rest of the market is down, right? DOT is entering negative price discovery, etc., etc. So there is a divergence of sorts, and this might be an indication of what we can come to expect from the crypto market in 2026, especially considering it seems like the whole cycle regime has been completely shaken up. We haven't had the altcoin season we expected, so it's going to be a very interesting year next year. But that divergence of assets and having altcoins be more independent and not a slave to Bitcoin's movements, right, may be what is going to be a very interesting and curious 2026, whilst also the crypto space moves closer and closer and closer to the traditional markets, right, and starts to integrate, right, with leaders like Coinbase, PayPal, all these sort of things doing this sort of thing. So it is going to be very interesting. But if you're not trading crypto, or you're not starting to experiment with crypto, then you will be left behind. Okay, you will be left behind. Just like there's an argument that there's an argument that I've had to develop my trading. I've had to develop the assets I trade and I've evolved with the space. Okay, so that's the most important thing. So I was originally trading BTC pairs because that was pretty much what we had. So XRP versus BTC. Now they're still very prevalent, but Tether is now king. The dollar is now king. So it's a different strategy, and the importance of Bitcoin's movements relative to USDT Tether pairs is significant, and therefore I have to adapt. And traditional stock traders, if the market is essentially moving in a direction where the line between crypto assets like World Financial Liberty, all that kind of stuff, and the Trump token, they're all starting to blend together, then that is going to be a very interesting time in the space. And if you want to get the best of it, right, especially the benefits of trading on the blockchain, right, there is massive benefits, fees, right, 24/7 trading, all of these things. So a lot of the frustrations which maybe traditional traders feel like, and I'm saying this from an outsider, as an outsider, right, and just listening to James and other traders of his ilk, it's the only thing that we can do as traders to survive is to change and to adapt, right? And if you've got inherent frustrations with like, oh, I want to be trading but I can't because the stock market's closed, and your strategy is essentially based around, like, for example, you assess the market close versus the first hour's market open, whatever those strategies are, right? And you employ those strategies, then trading crypto, you can't necessarily do that because it's 24/7, right? So you have to adapt. But there's a learning curve, right? And what we're trying to do here at Arcis is we're trying to get you ready for where the trading space, whatever asset that is, gold, silver, natural gas, wheat, crude oil, ZEC, XRP, Ethereum, Solana, whatever, right? Bitcoin versus gold, whatever, right? We're trying to get you prepared for that, right? Prepared for the future, right? Now, one thing which James, from my perspective, has done amazingly well is the fact that he has been existing in the trading space for a long time. And look, he's big on Bitcoin, and and he has assets, he has trades, and he has positions in some of the crypto, right? Not to the degree which I do. He may not venture into some of the more crazy territory, some of the low caps and all that, because it requires a slightly different approach, and certainly not any of the decentralized, areas, because like there's a whole different space. Like, so you go even deeper into crypto, right? There's thousands of tokens added, like every year, thousands and thousands of tokens added every year, and most of them are nonsense, right? But there is like a much deeper layer. So you'll have projects which just release tokens, right, to make money, and then they'll disappear within a few weeks, right? But there are traders who will look for these kind of movements and these assets, and then the couple of whales which begins to trade them, right, and then benefits them. So these token launches, and then they disappear. So there's a whole depth of trading opportunities in the space, which I only, I try and, I don't want to put my students into these very dangerous, very, decentralized spaces and these new, very volatile tokens, because it's a completely different strategy. But, if you look about how I trade the market, which is through a traditional TA lens, but with, of course, all the necessary adapters and so forth to fit a square peg in a round hole to adapt to crypto and how it works and how it moves. I can then build on that, and there's other things I can delve into in the space to make money and to look at new opportunities. And this is just going to get more and more and more and more as time goes on. And understanding the space, understanding where to go, where not to go, is fundamental to being a successful trader. So ask yourself, where are you going to be in 10 years? What are you going to be trading in 10 years? How are you going to get ready for that? Where's the market going to be in 10 years, right? And this is what we're trying to do here at Arcis. So if you have no interest in crypto, let's change that. Let's change that, because we care about your trading potential and your trading future. And we're trying to, of course, make sure that all opportunities, because it works both ways as well, because I've some of the traditional crypto groups, which I've been in over the last few years, they have started to pivot to traditional stocks, commodities, bonds, even real estate, right? Because that's the general vibe these days. It's about everything, right? This is a trading group which looks at everything, right? We have stocks for traditional traders, we have this, blah, 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 and then we have crypto. And it's all started to become unified in the way people look at it and the way people approach it. Somebody please buy me a coffee heater for my desk for Christmas. So this is what we're trying to do at Arcis. So it's a good opportunity today on Christmas Eve just to have a conversation about that, because it's pretty relevant, and it's down to the kind of the mission which we're trying to input. But here's the other thing: your way of trading, my way of trading, can benefit from a bit of cross-pollination, right? So I can benefit. I've benefited greatly from my time working with other traders at Honor Prime, where I met James, and I've benefited from paying attention to what James does and all the other great traders in the group, because it informs me. And we want the same to be in the reverse. And I know James does the same with my approaches, right? Because that's the sort of traders we are. We don't, we're not stuck in our ways. We look at, how we can learn from these things. So, you'll hear James talking about Bitcoin dominance now, right? And all these kind of things, because we're learning from each other and we're trying to get that edge, right? And one thing we do know is that successful trading is about adaptability. It's about seeing what's around the corner, not just in terms of, Z looks like it's going to break out of this ascending triangle, therefore I can see what's probably coming, and therefore I'm going to trade it. It's also about where you are going to be, where the space is going to be, and are you equipped for it? So don't be the student which gets in touch with me when Bitcoin is peaking at 125K and ask, I want to benefit from this, right? Be the one who gets in touch when Bitcoin is at 49K, right? Or approaching 49K, and is like, right, I want to, when this moves, when this turns, I want to be there. I want to be ready to trade. How do I do it? How do you trade this market, right? But let me answer that question, right? Just for anyone who's paying attention to this after the fact or not, let me explain how crypto works, right? In terms of setups, right? So this is ZEC, right? Really straightforward. In fact, no, let's go to Solana. Let's look at Solana, because this is a really good example. All right, so this is Solana. We have a crypto asset. It's a high cap, right? So it's not too volatile, right? But still more volatile than a lot of traditional assets. And we have a long-term support potential here at this lower diagonal support. It's a huge pattern. Let me just switch to the daily chart, right? Switch to the daily chart. There we go. right? So that's the big picture. Now, the market is bearish, right? Now, Sol is in a great position, but it doesn't matter if Bitcoin is going to continue low. And you can see we're struggling, we're weakening, we're losing this support area. These potential reversal plays, triple bottom, whatever, are starting to become invalidated, right? So why have I got these yellow lines? Well, firstly, I'm not going to enter a position here, regardless of whether I think Bitcoin is going to have a white Christmas or not, right? Where you're going to have a Santa rally, right? I'm not going to buy in here. I need confirmation because I know that, unlike traditional stocks, even though the traditional stocks do have a king, right, they essentially follow the rest of the market, right, and the dollar and bond. Also, it is much of the same, but it's a very different way of looking at it. So it's difficult for people to fully understand how crypto works, but it's not that dissimilar to how traditional stocks work in terms of the master they follow. It's just the master they follow is different and behaves differently, right? So I'm not going to enter a position here, despite really low prices. Low prices, the lowest price we've had since, well, earlier in the year, right? And it's a great opportunity for a short-term, medium-term, and long-term play with all this potential upside, right? But I can't enter here yet because Bitcoin is not in a good position. So we look at Bitcoin. So as a trader, I'm going to look at Bitcoin. I'm going to, right, this is not supportive of a long trade for Solana right now. It's not supportive, right? Because we've been rejected in this pocket, and now we're stuck in no man's land. So what do? I have to wait. Right, I have to wait. So I have a line in the sand on above here. So if Solana breaks above this line, right, and essentially surpasses these previous highs and breaks back into this range, that is one signal I can use to then come back in on this support line again. I can't come in this support line now because it's looking really bearish and it looks like it could roll over. Okay, but if I see this, that is a higher high, that is a break to an upper range, which is then going to reestablish this potentially as support again, which makes it a little bit easier for people to come in. So that's the first thing, right? Now that's probably not going to happen until Bitcoin gives us something, right? But so if Bitcoin then does break above here like this, then of course that would be a signal you've also got to enter your Solana position. So say Bitcoin comes up like this, right? You look for Bitcoin to come back down to retest the previous range, 89K, 3-day 200MA, 4-hour 200MA on the flip side. So we break above, confirm the SR flip. This on Bitcoin is your Solana entry. Okay, so imagine Bitcoin goes up, breaks above 89K, pulls Solana with it. Bitcoin then looks to come back down with new buyers entering the market. Tasty position for Solana, right? But there's a third aspect to it, right? If I can find it. Here we go. Bitcoin dominance, 6-hour chart. Now, Bitcoin dominance has been a bit weird the last few weeks. You haven't heard me talking about it too much because it's been a bit all over the place. But currently, it's ascending upwards in this pennant of sorts, right? Potentially a bear pennant. Now, a bear pennant is good for the altcoins because you'll notice that it's going down, it's green. That's because it's good for altcoins when it's going down. Now, right now, there's uncertainty, so it's working its way through this pattern. So if you do want an extra layer of confirmation, right? So maybe you do this. So you would be like, okay, so Bitcoin's made a move, right? It looks like it's going to form a foundation and confirm the SR flip above 89K, right? So that's the premise. You've had a bullish signal from Bitcoin. Buyers are looking to enter Bitcoin. Buyers will then look to enter Solana. And you think, right, okay, so I'm going to enter a little bit of my position here, right? So I'm going to enter maybe 20, 30% of my position here, right? Okay. And then I'm going to wait. And you see Solana do this, right? So you've had the move, it comes back down, you enter your position, and then you see Solana do something like this, right? Okay. Now, what do you wait for? What do I wait for? I will then be looking for Bitcoin dominance to add further position. And if Bitcoin dominance does this, I'll be like, I'm not entering another position, right? And I may reevaluate my current position. But if Bitcoin dominance does this, I'm like, there you go. There's my signal to add more to my Solana trade because Bitcoin dominance is breaking down, showing us that the money flow is starting to increase and move out of Bitcoin and into the alts. And therefore, that's my second signal. And then I'll enter another position here, and then the market should then start to go up, right? And then I can combine that with a potential pattern, which I've identified, right? And just to get constant confluence in terms of what we're doing, to get that edge, to mitigate risk, keep probabilities in our favor, right? Because currently, there is a cream of crypto traders, right? Which, not the cream, that's not the right word. Let's just say the people who don't learn to trade properly the crypto space and just actively just kind of buy positions, right? They'll enter Solana here, but the risk is so much greater because we haven't had confirmation that Bitcoin's heading up. We haven't had confirmation that Bitcoin dominance is going down. And there you go. So we have all of these combinations. We combine the TA of Sol with the TA of Bitcoin. We combine the TA of Bitcoin and Sol with the context of Bitcoin dominance and the money flow. And then we combine those signals together to increase our positions or enter our positions in entirety based on of that, because then we've got probabilities in our favor, because other people will see Bitcoin dominance is breaking down, suggesting altcoins will move. You could even look at USDT dominance to see how people are exiting or entering their position, because when USDT dominance is going up, that typically means people are leaving money on the sidelines or exiting their positions or getting liquidated or whatever. So this is the game. Now, on the face of it, this looks extremely complicated, right? It's like, well, I just look at my daily feed and it tells me what the market opened in the in the last year's closes, and that's how I trade. I'm like, okay, that's great. But if you want to be able to trade these assets appropriately and get probabilities in your favor, and of course, make money and benefit from crypto. Because if you look at nat gas, right, as a really great volatile asset to just make some money, it's fun, it's exciting, right? Crypto's that. Right, crypto can be your risk, your exciting part of your portfolio, right? And you may decide I'm only going to trade high caps, right? Because they can absorb a lot of downwards momentum, right? So a crash for a high cap is 20%, right? But a crash for DOT might be 50%, 60%, right? And a crash for a low cap is 200%, right? So you can add it to your portfolio slowly. No one's suggesting that you should be like, I am now leaving the Nasdaq. I am now leaving commodities trading. No. Because they are all good. They are great. You can make money. This is why, Arcis exists, right? But in addition to that, you can diversify your portfolio and begin to move into the space, the crypto space, get one elbow or toe in the water. And then as the space develops and as these two elements come together, traditional stocks, commodities, etc., and crypto, then you're ready. And then you can start, okay, so I've been trading high caps a little bit on the side. Now I'm going to increase my positions a little bit. I'm going to start looking at maybe some more mid-cap tokens, because I keep seeing altcoin gems every week, and I see all these potential trade setups, and I want to have a go at them, right? I want to see, or because that short play last time, Paul said gave us 20% short. I want to get on that, right? I want to do that. How do I do that, right? And this is what we're trying to do here at Arcis. This is what we want to try and do, right? So we're no one suggesting like, come over to the dark side. No, we're not saying that. We're saying, what is it? What was it at the end of that, that very disappointing final Star Wars movie, Rise of the Skywalker, the one where essentially Rey, Daisy Ridley's character, opts not to have a blue or green lightsaber, opts not to have a red lightsaber. She opts to have a yellow lightsaber, which is like neither or, right? And this is probably what we want. We're trying to get everyone at Arcis, and if you look at James, right? James does this perfectly, right? He is trading all the markets where all the fun is. He's trading Bitcoin, he's trading Ethereum, he's trading XRP, blah, blah, blah. He's doing like, he's not dabbling yet in the low caps that much, right? Because that requires just a little bit more managing, right? And he's a very busy man. But that's where I come in. So this is what we're trying to achieve. This is what we're trying to go, and this is what we're trying to get everyone to be. And it's something which is happening across the entire space, in YouTube, in trading groups, everywhere, because we've acknowledged that the future is less compartmentalized. The future is more integrated, right? And money, the future of money, is on the blockchain. Okay, it is on the blockchain. Just like, and I know back in the day when we're all exchanging, silver, bronze, gold coins or whatever. I don't know. I didn't live at that time, of course. And then the concept of paper money was introduced. It's like, huh? Right. And then the prospect of, having a digital store for that money, i.e. a bank account, right? And then a Federal Reserve, which doesn't look like Fort Knox, which is just like noughts and ones on a computer. That was a big shift, right? That was maybe a bad shift, but that was a big shift. And now where are we going? We are going now deeper into digital space, into a more detailed, complex infrastructure, right? Because you got to think about it. Let's just look at Swift, right? Swift payments, right? the time it takes to process a check back in the old days, right? And it's still not great, okay? And sending, if I want to send money to an American bank account, unless I use like Wise or something like that, it still takes a minute, right? And maybe even a few days, right? And as someone who travels around the world and deals with it's a nightmare, right? And this is probably the best metaphor, or rather real world experience I can tell you for, and it's kind of one of the reasons why it got me into crypto, right? So let me just put a nice, interesting chart on for Bitcoin. I want to put a bullish chart on for you guys, so you're not so depressed about the current state of things. Let's put a nice, beautiful rainbow chart on. Here we go. So let's look at this. So this is just the a potential chart for a bullish reversal for Bitcoin, although it's not looking great at the moment, if I'm honest. But there you go. So we could see a move up from here. But looks like 55K is on the cards. So when I was living in South America, I was living in a country which had severe economic issues, and it was cut off from the traditional banking system. So you couldn't send money, you couldn't even have GBP, USD, you just had the local currency, and it was very challenging. And you would have to find a guy, and anyone who lives in certain parts of the world, third world countries, whatever, will understand this, right? So you'll be like, right, I got $200. I in traditional fiat currency, and I need to convert that into local currency so I can buy some stuff, right? So I need someone. So I had a guy where I have to go in his house. I have to give him the money. He takes $20 off the top, right? And then he puts in my bank account the digital local currency in my bank account for that currency, which is isolated and only located in that country. You can't send cross-border payments or anything like that. And it's faff, a complete faff, right? It was a nightmare. And this was just like 2017, 2018 and onwards. So I got clever, right? And I then like, this is just, I can't do this. I'm not doing this, right? This is just so ridiculous. Just like people will feel like when they're sending like Swift payments, like why should it take 6 days? Why does it take 4 days for a check, right? It's 2019. Oh my God, right? So there's a something called what's it called? It's Bitcoin Exchange or something. What it is? I can't remember the name of it. It's gone now, right? And what it allowed you to do is a marketplace, essentially, a crypto marketplace. And you could essentially use crypto. So you'd convert my fiat currency, my pounds, essentially, into Bitcoin, put it on this marketplace, and I could exchange it through third-party sellers for local currency, like this, or within a few minutes. I could put money in any bank account around the world in area currency, right? Okay, and I could do that very quickly. So when I was living in South America, I was the go-to guy for doing money for people, right? Because it was just like, right, can you, if I send you money via PayPal, can you put it in my local bank account? Because otherwise I'm going to have to go walk across town and give it to my guy. So crypto, that exchange, it wasn't a traditional exchange, it was a marketplace. I can't remember the name of it. Oh my God, it's gone now. But it was incredible. And it got me into crypto, essentially. It got me to understand the space and the power of it, because the power of money and the power of being able to get it where you want and put it where you want cannot be understated. And it's still a problem today. It is still a huge problem today, cross-border payments, right? For businesses, for everyone, right? So, and even though it's things are being clamped down on with crypto, you can still have an offshore wallet, right? An offshore wallet. You can have an offline wallet, right? With no KYC. Right, to move money around at your leisure, which is the whole idea of crypto. So if the future of money is the blockchain, that story highlights how powerful it can be, right? Not just for moving money around, but for keeping money and storing money appropriately, right? And maybe out of prying eyes, not for nefarious purposes, but just like, go away, government, right? I pay my taxes, just leave me alone, right? Sort of thing. And this is the future. So when you look at crypto, and you look at you're not just looking at profit potential or a new market to cut your teeth on and to improve your trading skills. Because I will tell you one thing, and this is one thing I do believe, that if you can trade crypto, I think you probably trade anything, right? I think you can probably trade anything, right? And obviously you need to adjust. Like I can't just jump straight into the stock market or trading natural gas because I need to get my head around all the brokers and how it all works. And I get some advice from some of the wonderful people in the group and James and so forth. But at the end of the day, right, in terms of TA, in terms of understanding, in terms of being able to plan, and the regimented nature of crypto and how you need to check all these boxes and look at all these different things, right? Essentially being thorough and looking about, and because you can't let down your probabilities game in crypto. You can't do that. So this is ultimately what we're trying to do at Arcis, right? So there are many benefits for dipping your toe into the crypto space, not just for profit potential, not just for a new and exciting market where you can make 1,000% in just a few months, right? Again, and that's not hyperbole, right? Again, you're not going to make 1,000% because once ZEC confirms a move, that's the 100%. And you're going to take profits probably a little bit after it's peaked, So there's a reality there, but there's still amazing gains. And if you're talking about pension, if you're talking about traditional pension funds and about how you can save for your future, I mean, James would agree with this. Just investing a few thousand in XRP now is probably going to sort you out, right? So it's just about understanding these assets to allow yourself to enable those positions is important. It's very important. So if you look at crypto as just a source of trying to, assure your future with an asset class which can put in more gains than Apple could ever dream, right, over a 10-year period, then this is the space. This is what we're trying to essentially do. So we will welcome you with open arms to pay attention to what we're doing, because I think it's wonderfully exciting, and you don't have to trade the market like me. You don't have to trade it at all like James, but you can look at it your own and get your own benefit from it and move on from there. But before we finish, let's go back to DOT. Short setup. So if the market does turn bearish next year or for the next few months, it's going to be short time, right? And I get excited for short time because I love short trading, right? It sounds a bit counterintuitive, but I do. And my long-term investments I'm not going to be overly happy with, but nonetheless. So this is DOT, right? We have a descending triangle pattern. Now, some of you will think, right, okie dokie, right? So this is a really straightforward play. I'm going to wait for the descending triangle to break. Then I'm going to enter DOT. Oh my God, sorry. And I'm going to enter DOT like this and carry it down. That's a good play. You could do that for sure, but crypto is volatile. Is that really the play? No, I don't think it is, right? When was the last time we touched the 4-hour 200 MA, right? When was the last time we touched it? It was back here, right? We've just entered negative price discovery if you ignore this crash. So what do I need to see? I actually don't want to care about this pattern. I don't care about this pattern at all because it's making me enter a trade in no man's land, when really DOT could continue down from here, okay? But I'm not really going to enter it because I haven't got the ideal entrance, right? So what am I looking for? I'm looking for a move up, right? I'm looking to come in with this little pocket here with DOT, and I'm looking to enter here, okay? And then I'm looking to come in to short it down to around this golden zone, which is between the 1.5 and 1.618 fib level, right? That's the play. Now, why am I doing it that way? Why am I not just trading the pattern? Because it's extremely volatile asset, right? And I don't want to be entering a position here just for Bitcoin to reverse and then DOT to do this, right? Because look, I'm cut out. But if I enter up here, and you hear me say this all the time, right? And then the market reverses, oh, look, I can get out, right? I can reposition, I can readjust, right? And this is the whole game. Crypto really does make you, stay on top of your game. And then there's a short play here, right? And then if the market remains uncertain, then you're making loads of money, right? And if you've got a question like, how do I short the market? Well, you can use perpetual futures. You can use a lot of assets on exchanges have short versions of the token, which essentially the exchange just essentially gives you an inverted version of the asset. So in this case, if I was trading DOT short token, I would just be, again, just coming on what would be the bullish retest and trading it up this way, right? So there's so many cool things. And the thing is, there's probably this thing in traditional markets where, like, there's this fear of a bear market, right? A fear of a bear market. And I get it. Like, my investments are fearful of a bear market, right? Even though I'm in control of a significant portion of them and able to lower those positions, right? To maintain and offset any positions which are out of my control, out of my reach, right? But shorting the market is not something to be feared in crypto, right? This is another thing, right? It's not. It's actually easier, right? It's easier to short the market in crypto. So when everything's like, oh my God, it's going to be a bear year for crypto, or we're going to have a good few months of bear marking. Oh, yes. Hey, look, Thank you for staying here. Honestly, it's just you and me, brother, I think. So thank you for being here very much. I'm just having a chat, so I appreciate you being here. I hope you've wrapped all your presents. If you do you celebrate Christmas, my friend? Let me know. But thanks for being here. It's just I'm happy to talk into the sphere by myself, but I'm grateful for people paying attention. But there's nothing to fear from the bear market. There is nothing to fear. So I imagine to a degree that there is a concern that the fervor around crypto is necessary for us to bring new people into the group and to YouTube. But I honestly think that we can change the narrative, because I've made more money and had more successful trades shorting than I have longing, because the conditions for the market to go down, as I think anyone who's been paying attention to crypto realizes, right? It doesn't take much for the market to drop, but it takes quite a lot for the market to go up. Right? Certainly with the risk assets, certainly with the altcoin. So if we have another year of crazy tariffs, crazy economic conditions, all that kind of stuff, war and destruction, right? Then that's horrible and it's awful, and I wish we didn't, right? But if we do, there's a way to benefit from it, right? And it's actually, you'll find that in bear markets, you'll find patterns are better respected, right? Than they are when they're in an uptrend and Bitcoin's all over the place. You'll find when you're looking to enter a position at the diagonal, say like on this chart here, if you're looking to enter a position on the 200 MA, it just taps it and we go down. Everything just works. That is trading short in crypto. So it's not something to fear. It's not something to be worried about. It's actually an opportunity. And my job and my role is to support you all with that to the best of my ability. And it's not a case of, hey man, listen to me, I know everything. Nah, it's not about that. It's just, I know the space. And then working together collectively, all of us can benefit. It's like, I can't tell you, like, trading by yourself is a lonely thing, right? You're managing so much. It's walks on the beach for me. It's yoga. It's and it's less about, hey babe, I just made another 60%. It's less about that, but being part of a community, being part of a group, a trading group, it's not just about getting additional insights. It is that, right? It's not just about having access to different perspectives, setups, trades, entries, perspectives, mindset. Oh, check out this. Look, there's divergence here. Have you seen that? Look at this head and shoulders pattern, which is forming. Oh, I didn't see that. It's not just about all of those ideas coming together, right? Because I've started stealing people's charts in the group, right? I've started stealing people's charts in the group. And they mine. I steal James's steals mine, because we're all trying to essentially create the best kind of combination of ideas. But it's not about that either. It's not fully about that. It's about being next to somebody who's going through the same sort of thing as you're doing, and being buoyed by that, being supported by that, and having someone like James come in and say, no, it's all right. You did this wrong, but do it this time, right? That is so important. It's so important. So if for any reason, right, any other reason to join a trading group or to stay in a trading group, right, it is to be part of a community, right, when doing something which can be stressful, which can be challenging, which requires motivation, which requires inspiration, which requires ideas, perspectives, in order to keep things fresh, right? And I have really not ever been trading and not been in a trading group of some kind or some kind of community. And I can't imagine what that would be like, right? I cannot imagine what that would be like. It's so important. And that is ultimately what we're trying to do, what James, Emily, and now grateful to be part of it myself, is trying to essentially build, right? So we are going to be doing a lot of work in the new year to bridge that gap, to educate people on the crypto space and how it can benefit them. And it's not going to be me standing in front of a Lamborghini with a money gun, right? It's not. It's never going to be that, right? There's always going to be an element of that to a degree in the YouTube space, because you have to compete in an arena which is full of that, right? But you'll notice that in all my videos, and the same with James's as well, right? We're very grounded and down to earth, and we're just like, look, these are based on probabilities. These are based on TAs. If Bitcoin heads lower, this setup's going to get trashed. But guess what? Switch it to a short, right? Every trading opportunity for a long is a trading opportunity for a short, right? Because there's always somebody trying to manipulate it, right? So it's not like you're going to look at that. This dot setup was originally a long trade, right? On the basis of a potential double bottom and a breakup with a 200 MA. That never happened. So no one should have entered it, right? But now it's flipped to a short trade. but I wouldn't have seen the short trade if I hadn't plotted the long trade. Right? So it is multifaceted in terms of our perspectives. And since I've been working with Arcis on the back of work with Ola Prime, right, the insights which I've gained as a professional trader, right, and a professional commentator and educator, right, has been off the charts. So if you're a good trader, if you're an experienced trader, if you're a new trader, if you don't know what you're doing, right, being in a group is stand out the best thing you can do to improve your success rate. Now, you're not going to necessarily agree with everybody's style. You're not necessarily going to get everything you want from James or everything you want from me or everything you want from each other, right? But you're going to get something. And that is ultimately what I hope as a community we do. We enter the new year with that kind of idea. And even if you're not into crypto, you're paying attention to crypto because it's the future. And even like me, even if you're not a stock trader, traditional stock trader or commodities trader, I'm paying attention to what everyone else is doing as well, because I'm learning, and I'm learning from a lot of you. I pay attention to what's going on in the chat, and there's a lot of really great traders, and there's a lot of really great ideas, and it's fantastic. So that's what we're looking for in the new year. Thank you for anyone who's been for you guys, Keith, for James, and making money, moving money. I love that. I love that so much. Thank you for paying attention, and everyone else in the background and looking after the fact. Obviously, we'll probably a reduced coverage over the next few days. Let me just tell you the schedule. So I think what we're going to be doing is, let me just get my calendar up. So Altcoin Gems will be, I think most videos outside of New Year's Eve and New Year's Day will be flowing from me and James. I think he's actually a very busy guy as well. So there'll be an Altcoin Gems for certainly on Friday. I don't know what James's plans are, but I have no reason to think that we won't have maybe hear from him as well. I'm no doubt he'll be back on Sunday as well. We won't have a members live stream on New Year's Eve. I won't be doing a live stream solo either on New Year's Eve, but I will be doing my usual Thursday live stream on crypto on New Year's Day. Okay, so this will be the last members only live stream until the new year. And then I'll be grateful to have James back. And you'll see me again and the streams will pick up in the new year, and I'll be back on Thursday the 1st. But we should have Bitcoin update, we should have Altcoin Gems, and I'm presuming most of James's regular coverage will be around as well, as long as it's not on those big days. So thanks for bearing with us for a slightly reduced thing, but I wanted to jump on today and just have a chat and just see what the market is doing. But I'll end it there, I think. Thank you for joining me, and I wish everybody, regardless of whether you celebrate, a lovely evening and a lovely day tomorrow, and catch you in a few days. So thank you very much for joining me, and take care for now. Safe trading. Take care.